In today's interview, we explore the Aznalcóllar trial, a pivotal case impacting the ownership of a significant polymetallic mining project in Spain's Iberian Pyrite Belt, which ceased operations in 1998 following environmental challenges. The project was later awarded to a group now facing criminal proceedings for alleged corruption. Under Spanish law, if the current bid is disqualified, the tender would pass to the next qualified bidder, which happens to be Emorita Resources. The outcome has profound implications for Emerita and its shareholders, who await the verdict with great anticipation. All right, everybody, let's dive in. Don't miss the Rule Symposium for Natural Resource Investing happening July 7th in Boca Raton. If you can't make it in person, that's not a problem. You can get your ticket to watch live online or on demand. We'll be there with the deep dive, so if you make it out to Boca, come say hi at our booth. If you want to sign up, click on the link in the description to get your pass. David, thanks for hopping on.
Oh, pleasure, Steve. Nice to see you.
So there's been a lot happening right now in Spain, and it's great that you're hopping on here on such short notice, given the events last week. Where do we start here? Maybe I'm just gonna give you a pretty open-ended question here about the Aznalcóllar trial. What's happening here? Break it down for us.
Okay, so this is the culmination of a long legal battle that we've had over the awarding of the Aznalcóllar public tender in 2014, 2015. And as far as the trial goes, this is the final piece. It basically is the hearings of the 16 people who are implicated in various charges related to corruption to do with that awarding of that public tender. The trial started March 3rd. There was a break for about a month, but the actual testimony started around the end of March, and it's scheduled to wrap up around the end of June, early July, just depending on how long various of the remaining witnesses require in the courts. As most of the testimony has taken place already, and all except, I believe, two of the people that are implicated in the crimes have already testified, we have a fairly good sense that, and certainly our Spanish counsel, who is responsible for this and has been since the beginning, feel very comfortable that the trial is, and the testimonies are actually supporting all of the allegations that have been made. And so I would never second guess the judgment of a trial such as this, but at least from our perspective, there have been no surprises, and it's expected that there will be at least some convictions related to various corruption and or prevarication charges that revolved around the awarding of that original public tender. The Spanish system is somewhat different than what we're used to here in North America, other than, I guess, maybe Louisiana and Quebec, where they also have a similar type of system. When you get to this point of a trial in Spain, it's because conviction is almost guaranteed. They don't bring people to this point in a trial unless the evidence is supporting a conviction is quite overwhelming. So, and we certainly, in our view, that is the case here. This trial has been through numerous appeals already. We've had 5 Superior Court judges that have declared that crimes of corruption were committed, and that's in a lengthy written ruling that was a unanimous decision by 5 Superior Court judges. So that's the ruling that basically also named the 16 people and brought the trial to the stage. So the crimes were committed. Now it's a matter of determining who was responsible for what aspects of it, and what was the level of responsibility, and what should be the level of penalty, if any. And but the crimes were committed, so that's it.
Yeah.
That's how we view it. Um, so it's uh, it's a very interesting process. We've had people, of course, observing the trials every day, so that we get up to date reports.
What's that like for you guys? Like, are you guys, because obviously we get some glimpses from the local media in Spain, and then for most of us, I mean, I can speak a little Spanish thanks to Duolingo, but I'm just using generally Google Translate to just tell me what these articles are saying. Um, what's that like on the ground for you guys? You guys are you guys just consulting your local legal counsel that you have in Spain? Do you guys have people who are sort of a part of your operation that are sitting there in trial watching it? What's that like?
We consult with our legal counsel daily after every session, but we also have a very senior lawyer that's independent of everything, that is also observing and making notes, and giving us uh, his impression of how the trial has gone. And we've had our Canadian counsel, who also speaks perfect Spanish, just spent a couple of weeks, sorry, sitting in on the various uh, testimony as well. So we've got very good coverage on what's going on, and of course, beyond that, we get all of the media reports. Um, but really, from our perspective, the um, there has really been no testimony that um, would detract from the charges. Basically, it almost appears to me that the defense is basically saying, well, we may have done the wrong thing, but we tried to do it for the right reasons. But that's not really a good defense. So we don't feel there's really anything that's happened in the trial to date that is going to exonerate all of these people.
So so last week, there was an operating permit issued to Mineral Los Frailes, who is the group that currently, I guess, holds the mining rights, which is obviously the group that is in this entire legal proceeding that we're waiting to wrap up in July. You guys put out a statement today, or a news release, a press release, whatever you want to call it, uh, on the fact that this operating permit was issued on May 30th. What color can you give us there? What was your guys' reaction to seeing these articles come out saying that this group that is currently in a criminal uh, proceeding was awarded an operating permit to move forward with their mine?
Yeah, it's a very odd uh, situation, and the timing is clearly uh, not accidental in my view. The Mineral Los Frailes is a company that was formed after the public tender closed. So Minorbis is actually the company that participated in the public tender. Minorbis only owns about 1.5%, I believe, of Mineral Los Frailes. I may have that not quite right, but a small minority position, less than 5% for sure. And the balance is owned by Grupo Mexico.
Yeah, it was 2.69%, I think, originally,
Right.
and then they had, like, an ability to Grupo Mexico had an ability to buy some, at a discount. I'm just checking my notes here. I spent my whole morning reading up on this, and, um, uh, my understanding here is that, um where do I have it here? When it was issued, they actually registered the corporation something like in May, and when they were awarded the rights in, like, February. So they actually created the corporation months after they were awarded the mining rights. Is
Correct. Correct. And so essentially the award went to a company that didn't even participate in the public tender process, which is one of the uh, issues that is being tested by the court. The I mean, my interpretation, and you can take it for what it's worth, is it's a rather desperate attempt to muddy the judicial process. I feel, and maybe I'm not 100% correct, but I certainly can say this with some conviction that the trial is not going well for the defense, and this is an attempt to perhaps create a possession as nine tenths of the law sort of situation. We have been reassured by our counsel in Spain, and not just our counsel, but others that we've consulted with, that this will have no bearing on the legal process, and nor will it have a bearing on the judgment of the three trial judges. They're basically going to, under Spanish law, render their verdicts based on the facts before them that are related to that, and this is not related to that. So, and then further to that, if there is a conviction, which means there has been commission of a crime in awarding this public tender, then by law that bid must be disqualified, and it must go to the next qualified bidder, and we were the only other qualified bidder. So that all of that narrative is still intact, and we've been reassured not only by our own counsel, but others that we have over the years and continue to consult with, concur with that position. So it's a very odd situation where a minister would award that at this point. It was an odd news release, I would say. It was him. There were no representatives of Mineral Australias at the news release. I mean, this normally would be a very important photo opportunity. It would be public. It's a big deal for the community. It's almost as if it was rushed out on a Friday.
So this is my understanding here from what I'm reading here. We've got um, the Minister of Industry, Energy, and Mines, Jorge Paradella, who got together with the mayor of Aznalcóllar and a couple other government officials, and they kind of just like went rogue and made this announcement. Is that sort of what I'm understanding?
Well, it would be his responsibility to make the
Okay.
announcement, but there's actually uh, another pending litigation with respect to awarding it, and that the proposed discharge of water from the project it's currently being challenged in court by a non-governmental organization called, in English, Ecologists in Action, among other interest groups. And that litigation is outstanding, so that they really can't move forward with development while that is outstanding either, based on the information that we had received. So it's, there's a probability that the bid that allows Mineral Australias to have the mineral rights is going to be overturned by the courts in the coming months, if not weeks. It's just a very odd time to do this, and really does, in my view, suggest an attempt by some people in the political arena to influence the trial.
What legal avenues does Emerita have here? Like, is there, um, are you speaking with
The
counsel about,
Yeah, well, the resolution that was approved on Friday is an administrative resolution, so it is something that can be appealed, and we will appeal it, of course. Given the fact that there's a criminal trial to be resolved, and a ruling in favor of Emerita, the company reserves we would also reserve the right to remedies, if it continues. There were some other interesting media on Friday once this announcement was made, the Spanish print and television media just amped up, and there were actually reports of very high level interference in Emerita with respect to this Mr. Vicente Fernandez, who's the most senior person charged. Um, there is a reporter who has been doing an expose on a number of uh, corruption allegations for the past part the Spanish Socialist Workers Party, which was, they're no longer in power, they're the opposition now, but they were the party in power when this occurred. Um, this reporter has indicated he has audio of conversations where senior government officials, um, at the deputy prime minister level in the federal government, instructed a fixer.
That's Mrs. Lier Diaz.
That's Mrs. Lier Diaz. Um, to actually launch a program to discredit Emerita and liberate Mr. Vicente Fernandez from these charges. So this is something that happened a number of years ago, and that people don't probably remember it, but certainly I do, because there were personal attacks on our president, Joaquin Moreno, on myself, social media attacks, as anybody has been aware, a massive amount of social media uh, activity, and for a number of years it was quite negative, uh, likely all generated, because of these instructions. So uh, I will say, to see this coming out in the media finally, and media in Spain coming out in favor of the company, uh, it's really says to us that the tide has turned on this thing. It's been uh, almost 10 years where we've had to fight this battle, you know, very quietly, because these are powerful people who could control media, who have very big budgets. The Socialist Party has a big budget for that, and obviously they have influence. So um, it's between what's going on in the trial, and these allegations in the media, and what's happening. We actually feel very good that this process, it is going to uh, be concluded in a fair and just way. That's how I would like to phrase that.
Now, in saying that, it's obvious at this point, whether it's just allegations or it turns out to be proven when we talk about quote unquote people like Mrs. Leah Diaz. Again, it's alleged. We don't know. My understanding is the recordings aren't available online, but it sounds like the Spanish government is. I don't know if this stuff's happening in Canada with our government and it just doesn't work its way out. I'm sure that it certainly does to some extent. But have you guys felt like there's been any kind of impact on your exploration plans in Spain outside of the whole Aznalcóllar stuff as a result of certain people in the government meddling, or has everything just kind of proceeded as normal?
Uh, for the for the first number of years, that was certainly the case. Once the Socialist Party was elected, voted out of office, we were actually uh, treated more as a normal operating company. So, but before that, everything that had to do with us was basically stalled. Now we have an excellent relationship with the government in Huelva, where IBW is, and where we're developing a deposit. We've been designated, that project's been designated as a project of strategic importance by the Andalusia government. Um, So there is a high level of cooperation. Within that government, there are still, I would say, individuals who, some of whom are implicated in the trial, are still there, and also, of course, colleagues who perhaps could move things a little bit faster. But with this designation of strategic importance, um, that group is very efficient and effective at getting all of our files moved along on a timely basis. So we right now, I think, can say it's never been better, a better time to be operating there, certainly for Emerita. The relationships with the government in Huelva are very strong, and they're very supportive. The project is important for that region, and similarly, uh, at least key people in Andalusia. We still have some issues, particularly with the minister named in this article. Um, Eventually, we will have to meet with that department. However, if this trial plays out as we think it will, that department will be somewhat changed because the people implicated there that are probably roadblocks will likely no longer be there.
So, outside of the legal case, you guys announced some positive metallurgy results. I think it was last week. What can you tell us?
Yeah, we've had a very good outcome with the continued metallurgical testing that we've been doing on particularly La Romanera, and it applies to the Alcura deposit as well at IBW. So we now see gold recoveries, which when we did our MRE in March, we had 64% more or less gold recovery in that MRE. We now have metallurgical testing demonstrating that we can exceed about 81.5% gold recoveries, and we expect we can continue to improve on that. And not only has the recoveries gone up, but with the additional testing, the amount of reagents that we're using has been cut in half as well in the process. So it's going to be a very important result for the project, because that's essentially a 17% increase uh, in gold produced at no extra cost. In fact, at less cost than what we would have contemplated with the MREs. So that's direct. It comes out of the same tons. We're not producing any more tons to get that extra 160,000 ounces of gold. So it's a very important result. And yeah, it's been a process, but we're doing very careful work. We have a very strong metallurgist in Mr. Jorge Blanco, who came to us from First Quantum, and it's looking very good.
So, what does exploration look like for 2025? How much drilling do you think you guys are going to get done? How many drill rigs do you guys have working? What can you tell us?
Yeah, so right now we have 4 drills on the IBW property. Um, we have all of them on Alcura. We're going to move one drill off to do drilling on other parts of the project, particularly on the east side of the project near Infanta. There's a number of targets there, geophysical and geological targets that are not tested. And given that we're planning to put the infrastructure in that area, we need to test them now to make sure that we're not going to bury a potential deposit in tailings or put a mill over it or something like that. So that sort of condemnation drilling will go on and could lead to a discovery there with one drill, and we'll continue to expand the Alcora deposit where we have very good copper gold grades there. So uh, that's the focus for IBW. We now have the Ontario licenses awarded, which are tied on to the north, primarily north and west of IBW. There are 3 past producing mines there, where there have been in the archives records of very high grade copper, particularly directly along strike from Romanera. And of course, any infrastructure we put in at IBW, these deposits are only a few kilometers away, so they would be essentially brownfields expansions if there's some success there. So the geophysics will commence on those, and we should be hopefully maybe drilling a couple of those targets later in the year. And also later in the year, we still have that extensive Gossan zone that was discovered at Nuevo Tintillo. So sometime in the third or fourth quarter, we're doing some more geophysics just to pin that down. But we're seeing, 1 to 3 grams gold at surface there with very high silver. In a Gossan, base metals are typically leached out, which is what we see at Romanera as well. But the fact that the precious metals are there tell you that it's probably a productive system at least. So that'll be an exciting target as well to get some drill holes into later in the year. We'll have a busy year. Of course, the big push is also on the engineering for IBW. So we're meeting Thursday to review the bids for the pre-feasibility study, which will commence very shortly after. We should be in a position to award a contract by early next week.
All right. Well, David, thanks very much for hopping on here. I think that this is going to be, for a lot of investors in junior mining in Canada, this is going to be a story that they're going to really want to follow over the next, we'll say, 20 to 60 days as the court case wraps up. And it's always a pleasure speaking. And let's continue to do this as we get more updates on the criminal proceedings.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And I hope you have a great day.
All right, everybody, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. All right, everybody, thanks for watching.